Oh, hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business Focus here on TV3. My name is Alfred Akansi. Now, Ghana's economy has expanded by 24.6% for last year. That's according to rebasing figures by the Ghana Statistical Service. Now, what this means is that if the shared amongst us itself population size of 28.96 million, the 256 billion value of the economy means that each and every one of you watching me tonight will be worth some 8,000, a little over 8,000 Ghana cedis. But what does this really mean? What are the implications of the rebasing of the economy going into the next phase of our economic planning as a country? We'll touch on that. And Imani Africa policy think tank believe that the men's gold issue is now a public policy issue. The founding president, Franklin Cudjoe, will be joining us later on the show as we go on. All these plus more. You want to find out what's happening with the cocoa prices and how farmers are reacting to the decision by the Cocoa Board. Also, we'll give you an update on the commodities market and also the stocks market and the currency market as well. So stay with us here on Business Focus. There's a lot coming up. Let's take a summary of all the stories that made the headlines throughout the week. There's a lot more business news on 3news.com. We want to make some time and visit that website and get updated. Now let's get into the issues for tonight here on Business Focus that concerns you. And feel free to share your thoughts with us. We're highly interactive on our various social media platforms. At TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Look out for us on DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. And let's hear your views. Now, Ghana's economy, as we speak, has expanded by 24.6% for last year, according to the rebasing figures by the Ghana Statistical Service. Now, this was after the Ghana Statistical Service reviewed the base year from 2006 to 2013 and the way of calculating economic growth for the country, meaning that other factors have now been roped into the whole methodology for calculation. Let's take a listen to the acting government statistician.
Rebasing an economy or GDP means bringing to the current level what the size of the economy should have been. Some reasons for rebasing an economy include a possible change in the structure of the economy, new data sources, improvement in technology for capturing data and computation. Ghana has rebased its GDP with 2013 as the new base year. The previous base year was 2006. For 2017, GDP at current prices with purchasers value and 2006 as the base year, GDP was estimated in excess of 205.9 million cedis. The new rebased year of 2013 estimates 2017 GDP in excess of 256.6 million cedis. This means the economy, or GDP, has expanded by 24.6% with a growth rate of 8.1% for 2017.
Because of the treatment of the information, the details also changed. So that for some of the items, maybe if we took the VAT, it was an aggregated figure that we used. But now we're looking at the balance sheets of the various establishments, institutions. So we could break down the details into what actually matters for the computation process.
Acting government statistician Ban Wade explains the drivers for the expansion of the economy after the rebasing.
Industry, for example, we mentioned grew by 15.7%, and it was the area that we recorded the largest growth. And within industry, oil and gas grew by over 80%, which was large. Agriculture grew, and services also grew.
Per capita income in cedi terms is 8,863 cedis. The country's informal sector in current terms is worth 73,325 million cedis in 2017 as compared to 64,457 million cedis in 2016.
The economy has expanded, so that for the expanded GDP, a growth rate of, say, 1% will not be the same as a growth rate of 1% in the old series.
This expansion could have a tax implication as the Revenue Authority may decide to widen the tax net. The increase in the size of the economy could mean a lower debt to GDP ratio.
So that's one of the advantages, a lower debt to GDP ratio. But let's get into this so that we can all follow and understand what this really means and the impact or implication that it will have on our economy. Also, Sarkodie is with the Economics Department on the University of Ghana, Legon, and he joins me in studio. He's an economist as well, and a financial analyst. Thank you so much for your time. Good evening. It's good to have you. Welcome back to Ghana, I must say,
thank you.
after what you want to do there. But quickly, if you look at what the Acting Government Association talked about, 3 reasons were given for the change in the rebased GDP coverage: methodology, structural, and coverage. Let me find out your thoughts about this.
I think that this is not the first time Ghana is doing it. We did it in 2010 when we changed the base year from 1993 to 2006. And then also in recent years, our neighbors, other African countries like Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, Nigeria, they have all rebased their GDP. It is important to relook at your GDP's calculation when in fact there are a number of items that you think that they would have significant impact on the calculation of GDP. So for example, when we rebased in 2010, there were other items which were not prominent now, like you talk about social media. If you take a look at the GDP, Ghana's GDP, the service sector takes a greater share, more than half, only the service sector.
Absolutely. In fact,
yes.
I'm going to show to viewers a sectorial distribution of the GDP as we go on.
And within the service sector, the major component, sub-component is also ICT. And then right now, you talk about Android phones, iPhone, 6S, whatever have come, the smart TVs. They were not, prominent in the years that we had our GDP rebase. I'm talking about 2010. Sure. In 2010, how effective was the social media? Now we have all these gadgets around.
So the growth of the technology space,
yes,
in itself as well.
Either item, we started producing oil in commercial quantities in 2011. That was after the rebase year was 2010. So there are a number of items, a list of items which are not having significant impact on the GDP, but now they do. So it is important to include them in the calculation. That is the coverage. That's what we are talking about, the coverage. But
what about methodology and structure?
Methodology and structure. Structure of a Ghanaian economy, somebody will say it has been the same, but we have oil and gas, and we also have other items that are, playing important roles. The methodology, I'm sure the Statistical Service would have more, to explain. I don't work with them, so I don't know much about the methodology. But I think in a nutshell, all they are saying is that the items that having significant impact on GDP now that are important. But let me touch on the base year. You know, we usually peg the prices in the base year, assuming that prices do not change. So, for instance, in 2006, which was the base year, we assumed that prices in 2006 since 2006 have not changed. So, when you are calculating GDP,
well, that's the assumption.
It is price
for methodological or structural. I mean,
methodology
for the methodology for the analysis.
When you're looking at the value of GDP, it is price times quantity. And if you want to know the real increase in quantity, that's your real economic activity, you have to hold the prices constant. So you hold the prices constant using the 2006 prices. So when you're calculating GDP in 2017, you assume that prices have not changed since 2006. Yes. So that you want to know that any increment in real GDP is as a result of real economic activities. That is why in the budget you hear the finance minister talk about real GDP. When you don't hold prices constant and you allow prices to change, we call it nominal GDP. So you won't see nominal GDP in the budget. Right. You will see real GDP in the budget because we have held prices constant.
You have the finance minister, and then this is not specific to Kenneth Ofori-Atta. You have some finance ministers gone by in present actually make projections or statements based on nominal GDP values. And
yes.
And I've had reason to question why that is done.
Because it's very simple. Because when you're looking at public debt as a ratio of nominal GDP, public debt is in figures, it's nominal. So the nominal will cancel out. When you express it as a ratio, they will cancel out. So when you use the nominal, it won't, they cancel out. You talk about tax revenue as a ratio of GDP. The tax revenue is in figures, so 33 billion Ghana cedis. You express it as a ratio of 205 billion Ghana cedis. They are all nominal figures. So when you express the ratio, they cancel out.
Absolutely.
So, but when we are looking at the GDP growth rate, that one we use real GDP and not nominal because of the effect of inflation. So when you, for instance, I mean, from 2016 to 2017, we would have GDP growth rate of over 20%. But because of inflation, because we want to hold prices constant, you take away the effect of inflation from it. And so it will be nominal GDP growth rate minus inflation rate. And then you get the real GDP growth rate.
You know what I wanted to do? Let's scale it down to how all of this affects the ordinary Ghanaian or the average Ghanaian.
What affects the ordinary Ghanaian?
So really, in the end, when you are doing all of this, using this new methodology and the structure and the coverage, definitely what we see now is, I'm going to show you something on the screens right now, where the economy is now worth 256 billion.
Yeah.
Now, what you're going to see on your screens with the per capita analysis, as was stated by the Acting Government Association, is that with the economy now worth 256 billion as a result of the rebasing, if this is shared amongst a population size of 28.96 billion, as we do know we are now as a country, then everyone could get about 8,863 Ghana cedis.
Yeah. Your question is in two ways, so I'll assume that you've asked two questions. I'm going to answer them. Now, the first question that I assume you have asked me.
No, in fact, is a question I have asked, not the assumption.
What is the rationale for per capita income? Is that it?
True.
Now, per capita income, we assume that when we share the GDP by the population, everybody has contributed that amount. Or when you take it, you convert the GDP to national income and you share it, it means that everybody is getting that. But remember that it is only an assumption because you
an
have
assumption that is not done in a vacuum.
No, I'm
Actually
coming.
By some fundamental.
I have taken you to the classroom, so I'm coming.
Absolutely.
So we do the per capita income. We know that some people earn more than the others. The inequality is playing a role in every economy. But when you're doing the per capita, you nullify the inequality. You assume that inequality is zero. We do per capita to compare countries' performance. Per capita income, when you want to compare countries' performance, you cannot use their real GDP or their nominal GDP. Why? Because population influences countries' GDP. So you can't compare Ghana's GDP to that of Nigeria, to that of Kenya, because Kenyans are more than Ghanaians. Nigerians
so the
are more
population size.
So the per capita takes away the effect of the population. And so when you use the per capita, then you are going to compare average Ghanaian versus average Nigerian. So you want to see how much a Nigerian has contributed to Nigerian GDP versus how much a Ghanaian has contributed to Ghana GDP. Then you can do that comparison, and you do the country's ranking, but we can't use the GDP. So the per capita is only an assumption that everybody has contributed equally, and that is also used to compare countries because of population. We cannot use countries' nominal GDP because China. How can you compare Ghana and China?
Obviously.
So now the second question that I assume that you have asked now with the rebasing, the per capita GDP has increased, isn't it? And you want to see whether it has an implication on the living standard.
I'm actually good. Yes.
That is your next question.
Because what this means is that, for example, one of the implications that this development would have is the impact it will have on Ghana's debt to GDP ratio. Okay, so meaning that government may have to increase tax collections to make for the expected shortfall. So if you are increasing tax collections, whoever is watching right now should actually be bracing him or herself up to be paying more taxes.
Obviously, but the increment in per capita income does not mean there has been an improvement in the life of Ghanaians. The rebasing of the GDP has no effect on the living standard of Ghanaians. No effect. In fact, the figures are only telling us the true reflection of what we have been living, what we have been enjoying so far. The rebasing hasn't added more jobs, it hasn't added schools, it hasn't built hospitals. It is only telling us that this is the true picture of what we have already been enjoying.
Against the 2006 situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is that. Now, coming back to the effects on other sectors, you mentioned the debt to GDP ratio. When you use the old GDP, you are talking about the ratio of 68%. You use the new GDP, the rebase, you are talking about 54.5%.
Right.
So it is going to inform the government that you have room to borrow. That is what we did in 2010. When we rebased in 2010, government had appetite to borrow more.
And that's one of the concerns that I
it is a major concern.
The IMF review team that left Ghana just about a little over a week ago raised. So now we know that it's not even near the 70%.
No, it's 54.
So it's
55.
54.
Let's say 55.
Let's say 55.
Yeah, 55%.
So that has the tendency of increasing the appetite of government to borrow. Which is already one of the major concerns that we've expressed over the period.
So even with the IMF targets, it is going to help us because one of the biggest pillars in the IMF program is fiscal consolidation.
True.
In fiscal consolidation, we are talking about public debt as a ratio of GDP and also budget deficit as a ratio of GDP. So if you have rebased and our public debt as a ratio of GDP has come down, then Ghana has a better chance to meet the IMF targets with respect to the fiscal consolidation. We have a better chance because of the rebased GDP, because the figures are going to favor Ghana. Now,
let's speak to that concern of how this rebasing now reducing the debt to GDP ratio to about 55%.
Yes.
Probably giving government reason to borrow.
Yeah.
Let's interrogate that.
It is. I'm not saying that it's going to give government reason to borrow. It might increase their appetite to borrow because they think that the ratio has come down.
True.
And therefore, if you are talking about a threshold of 60% for developing countries, and Ghana is a developing country, so then they will say, okay, then we have 5% more of GDP to borrow.
Absolutely.
So that is the idea. But, Alfred, usually I do not want to use the debt to GDP ratio for my analysis. Why? Because our GDP, Ghana's GDP has been largely influenced by oil and gas. I want us to concentrate on the ability to service our debt instead of the debt to GDP ratio. You might say that, okay, we have rebased our economy, debt to GDP ratio has come down. How about your ability to service your debt? And in calculating your ability to service your debt, you use the tax revenue or the interest payment as a ratio of tax revenue. The interest payment as a ratio of tax revenue is always your ability to repay your debt or to service your debt. Now, Ghana spends about 41.5, pesos out of every cedi we collect to service our debt. 41.5% of our tax revenue is used to pay only the interest, only. We have not talked about the principal. So if you add the principal, you will be talking about 45 to 46%. So this is where the emphasis must be. That is why you mentioned tax revenue. Government will then have to, ask Ghanaians to pay more taxes or, find other ways. Of course, I agree. Next budget, I'm sure the next budget, 2019 budget, is going to look at areas where we are going to raise enough domestic revenue, because we must be able to put our position on our ability to service our debt in a good, position. So if you use debt to GDP ratio, it might mislead you. But I want us to concentrate on the ability to pay, which is the interest payment as a ratio of tax revenue. This year, we expect to collect tax revenue of about 33 or 35 billion Ghana cedis. But we are going to pay interest of almost 15 billion, 14.9 billion cedis. So almost 15 billion cedis. That's what we're going to pay for only the interest. We haven't talked about the principal. So if this government wants to come out and say that, okay, now we have 55% debt to GDP ratios, so we have more room to borrow, the question I will ask them is that, how about your ability to pay? What is the standing? If you're able to improve the domestic resource mobilization and bring down that ratio, that interest to tax revenue ratio, we bring it down, then I would agree for any further borrowing by the government.
Okay, just so you see what the sectoral distribution of GDP has been over the period. Now I'm going to show you this diagram, which specifically is the bar graph that will give us a sector by sector analysis of how the distribution of GDP has been. So the green you see is for services, and then the red is for industry, and then the blue for agric. And what you see there, since 2013 till now, services sector has always increased. 41.4% in 2013, reduced to about 39.8%, then increased to about 43.2% in 2015. Then in 2016, increased to 46.7%. Then in 2017, it dropped by 45 to about 45.6% there. And then that follows in that same order. But what we're saying now is that, for example, for industry, it grew by 15.7%, and then agreed by 6.1% in that average. But then this means that industry recorded the highest growth in the economy in 2017.
Yeah, it was expected, because oil and gas, oil alone recorded over 80% growth. So because, we discovered some new oil fields, and then the already existing ones, we increased the production of it. This year, we budgeted to produce 51 million barrels of oil, 51 million barrels this year. So if you peg it at the oil price of $65 per barrel, you're talking about some 3.3 billion cedis. But out of the $3.3 billion, out of the $3.3 billion, only 700 is coming to Ghana. $2.6 billion is going to the producers, because the machines that are used to produce is not for you.
Absolutely.
So you talk about all these things, and the money is going elsewhere. That is why, time and again, anytime you bring me here, we talk about the real sector.
Absolutely.
Leave the oil out. Let's talk about agric. Let's
so
talk
more of
about
the non-oil GDP should rather be what we're
So I mean, the government association will say, okay, the industrial sector has grown, is the fastest growing amongst all this. Of course, I mean, the figures are showing. But I will also want to narrow down the analysis. Look within the industry. Let's see the contribution of oil. Let's see the contribution of manufacturing. If the manufacturing is taking the lead, then I'm happy. But if manufacturing is not taking the lead, then all these things, the benefit to Ghanaians will be minimal, because it is the foreigners who are taking. I've told you, out of the $3.3 billion, only 700 is coming to Ghana.
And that actually leads me to another concern, why don't we then begin to focus on increasing the agricultural sector, which over the period, if you look at 2013 to 2014, just about 0.3% increase in 2015.
That is the share. That's the share of GDP.
Exactly. So you see that even in 2017, it's about 21.2%.
But are you worried? This is expected.
Why?
For every nation, every country that develops, you must go through this stage. However, when Agric lost its share of GDP, it shouldn't have lost the share to service. It should have been from Agric to industry and then service. That is where we missed it. So that if you are concerned,
what would have accounted for that miss, I beg your pardon, where instead of Agric losing the share to industry, you rather have services rather picking up?
Because we look within the services. Let's look at the items in the services: education, health, ICT, transportation, buying and selling. How many items do we produce in the country? Almost everything is imported. So the buying and selling activity, they are all in the service sector. So that is why the service sector has taken over. We should be able to produce, manufacture. That is why I said that within the industry, I want to see manufacturing. So the emphasis now should be placed on Agric and manufacturing. It looks like we have to go back and rewrite the equation.
Absolutely.
And say that, as for Agric losing its share of GDP is expected. However, the share of employment, if Agric is losing the greatest share of GDP, then Agric should also lose the greatest share of employment, because you can't have so many people in Agric producing little. That is where we have missed the equation again.
We actually went to the classrooms today, but it's been beneficial. Those Sakori is a lecturer, as a matter of fact, the Economics Department, University of Ghana, Legon, and helping us to better appreciate what the rebasing of the GDP will mean to you out there watching to us. I want to say thank you, as always, for making your time to be with us here on Business Focus. I'm going to go for this quick break. When I come back, we'll get into the mover segment, and then we'll settle for an analysis of the currency, the stocks, and the commodities market. To stay.
Good evening. This is the Mover segment right here on Business Focus with me, Nanikia Mensah Brampa, and I'm sure my outlook tonight should speak volumes. We're talking food, and we're inside La Paz, Tabora number 3. Two cousins decided to come together to put up this business, and it's nothing new, but I'm sure they have their own special initiative. We're talking Mashke this evening, and they are Kinkira. That is their name, Kinkira. We have Dennis and Clifford, who decided to join hands and put up this business. But tonight we have Dennis Opokajiman joining us right here on the Mover segment to talk to us why Kinkira, in the midst of all the mashke we can do in our own house, mixing the kinky and the sugar and everything. So Dennis, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us. We celebrate you as our mover for tonight.
Thank you very much.
First of all, we want to find out from you the name Kinkira. Why did you choose that name, Kinkira?
Business name for our business. We wanted a name that would resonate with the general populace. When you hear it, it kind of gives you an idea what the business is about. In the Ghanaian parlance, Ra is more like the owner of something. So we are taking ownership of the Kinky line of a business. So whenever anybody hears Kinkira, anything Kinky, we want them to think about us. That's how come we chose the name Kinkira.
Because I know there are lots of people out there who are preparing mashke, lots of names out there. So I wonder what is unique about Kinkira that we should know. Tell us.
Okay. Kinky in itself is a local delicacy, let me put it that way. So slapping foreign names on it, stuff like that, we want to step out of the crowd. We want to be distinguished in terms of not only with the name, but the kind of branding we want to brand ourselves and the product quality we serve as well. That's our distinguishing factor.
Dennis here is a salaried worker. So one would ask, if Dennis is earning monthly allowance or salary, why would you want to venture into Kinkira with your cousin, Clifford?
I have always believed in entrepreneurship, working for myself or individual freedom in terms of finances. So when the idea for Kinkira came, I did not hesitate at all to jump on board and then do it. The second reason being that we are in an era where there is a lot of unemployment, graduate unemployment and stuff like that. My cousin, on the other hand, had just finished his nursing degree and was doing his service. We were in a situation where there was a bit of uncertainty in our employment from his side. So we joining forces actually gives us that freedom for him to be doing something whilst in the same...
Whilst he's cashing in, you are cashing in extra, I'm sure.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about the money, I know.
You know.
Well, you bring two questions out. The issue of employment. How many people have you added on aside Clifford? How many people are you working with?
Okay, so since the start of the business, we've had about 6 people join. Currently, we have 4 in our employment that we work with. We have a salesperson. We have a management lady who takes care of our day-to-day activities in terms of the kitchen, the procurement and stuff like that. And of course we have Clifford as well. I am more like the oversight guy. And we also have someone who handles our kenkey, our groundnuts and stuff like that for us.
Being the oversight person, you work.
Yes.
So how do you balance these two?
Oh, okay. I work, definitely I work from, my kind of work starts from 7 and ends at 4. Okay. So after 4, I have all the time to supervise activities going on in Kenkera and stuff like that. And I'm also particularly in charge of marketing, social media marketing. So whilst Clifford is handling the groundwork, I'll be handling the marketing, and then more like I'll be the corporate face of Kenkera. Okay.
I'm sure you see, we have a display of what exactly goes on at Kenkera. And the kenkey I saw was not the normal kenkey we see. It's very huge, and it's not soft like the ones we see. What's the difference between what I saw and then what we usually have in our kitchens and our various homes?
In the kenkey market, we have 2 types of kenkey. Or should I say, the 2 types of fanti kenkey. There is one specifically made for mashed kenkey, unlike the fanti kenkey you are used to eating with
at home. Yeah.
Eating with the pepper. No, the mashed kenkey comes with a lot of fiber, in that when you blend it, it gives you that smooth feel. The mashed cake brand of kenkey.
And another major thing that one would want to find out has to do with the hygienic aspect. How do you handle things when it comes to hygiene, keeping stuff with what you do?
Hygiene is paramount in any food industry. Without hygiene, you're as good as dead as a business. So we have a lady here who manages our day-to-day activity, and she's a hotel management expert. She's been in the hotel industry. So preparation-wise and everything, she handles it, and she has a food handling certificate. We make sure our employees have that before they come into handling the food. That is the aspect of the health we have. And also Clifford being a professional nurse, he oversees that milling of the kenkey, everything, like with the gloves I'm wearing there. He will never allow me to step into the kitchen without personal protective.
No wonder you've cladded me in all this. I'm feeling hot already,
definitely.
But don't worry. Okay, so you're watching the Mover segment right here on Business Focus. Tonight we are inside La Paz, Tabora number 3, speaking with Kenkera Dennis Opukwajiman, who has come together with his cousin Clifford to put this together. And quite shortly, I'm sure Clifford will be joining us to do the blending. So whilst we're having the conversation, I think we can kickstart something to see exactly what goes on here. Well, the trade secret is somewhere else. This is the usual thing, but there are other add-ons. Are you going to get involved, or we should just...
Oh, let's just watch him take it.
Okay. What more challenges do you face with this particular business?
One major challenge, aside not selling huge quantities within a day, is delivery. Sometimes somebody will call you, say from Kaswa, and say, I just need 1 pack. And looking at the delivery charges and the cost of the kenkey, it wouldn't really make economic sense on the person's part or even on our part. Currently, we are in the process of procuring our own dispatch riders to be doing deliveries for us. But now we outsource the delivery to other delivery companies who, of course, come with their own predefined costs. So we will have to probably add that one to the cost of the Kinky. So usually what we advise is, or what we limit ourselves to do is, instead of just delivering on single orders, we've pegged it at a minimum of 3.
Okay.
Well, with a van...
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
What did you start with?
20,000.
20,000?
Yes.
You saved that amount of money for the business?
We combined our resources. We saved.
Okay.
Yes, we couldn't find any, financial aid or whatever from outside. So we had to combine our resources.
Is this going to be something you're going to continue with from now till, let's say, the next 5 years? Or you're using this as a benchmark to venture into other businesses?
As we started, we had the vision of going the long haul. At some point, we are going to introduce other products in the region of breakfast and lunch as well. But then we are not going to do away with the core idea of Kinky Mashke that we do. We want to go the long haul, just like McDonald's does with burgers.
Right, so if you're watching us, we're coming to you from Taboro number 3 inside La Paz, and this is Dennis Opukwa-Gyimman together with his cousin Clifford, who decided to come together to put this business together known as Kinky Ra. Dennis, just before we wrap up, let's listen to you speak to the young people who are coming up, those who are saying they're unemployed, still at home, who have ideas that are not really coming forth. What would you want to tell them? Look into that camera and give them that brief advice.
Okay, so the word of advice I'd have for up and coming, should I say, young people, graduates, is that opportunities abound. We just need to open our eyes to see them. Someone will come out of the university, probably he has a talent. Let's say he's a graphic designer, he programs, he does that. You shouldn't wait for someone to employ you. Think about creative ways you can use your talent to, make ends meet, not even ends meet, to make a living for yourself.
Okay, so Dennis, we're grateful for your time tonight on Business Focus right here. Clifford, thank you so much. So this is what you get at the end of the day. Looking at the corporate environment, I'm sure if you're working in the corporate environment, or even if you're a regular market person or just anybody, you can get this for yourself. That is Kinky Ra, and this is my package. Definitely, I'm taking this home. So Dennis, we're grateful for your time. Dennis Opukwa-Gyimman and Clifford coming together with Kinky Ra. This has been the Mover segment right here on Business Focus. My name is Nanikia Mensah Brampa. Business Focus continues after this. Stay with us.
Of young people out there to begin to identify opportunities around them as they watch others who have identified and are actually making good out of those things. So just stay with us here on Business Focus. The Mover segment is constant on the show, but let's take our Entrepreneurs Corner, where we bring you some knowledge from entrepreneurs. Welcome back to Business Focus here on TV3, and this is the point where we're getting to the commodities and the stocks and also the currency market now. Winslow Sakfio is Director of Capital Markets at First Bank. Winslow, thank you very much for joining us as always. Now we're talking about the dollar now to the cedi, about 4 cedis, 97 pesos thereabout. Tell us about the health of the currency, and is this situation going to linger on, or the number of interventions government has announced is going to change the situation with the coming in of some funds as expected?
I think with the funds coming in, we'll see the cedi stabilizing a bit. Recovery, I would say that would start maybe next year. This year is not likely.
So we're not going to go like back to 4 cedis, 70 pesos, or anything in the range of 4 cedis 80 or 4 cedis 70?
What we'll see is the cedi stabilizing at the 4.9. I mean, when you look at the forex market, it's gone above 5 cedis.
Absolutely.
And it looks like there's still a panic demand that investors wanted to hoard the dollars. So we'll see that going on until they are very sure that government intervention would actually stabilize the cedi.
And we're going into a certain period where there's going to be a lot more pressure on the cedi, as has always been the case, because people will be importing and buying more. But government is confident that the situation is not going to deteriorate any further, even though we're getting into this period where every other year we know that the cedi comes under pressure.
Yes, I think from beginning of year, government has given indication that it will step in to prop up the cedi if the need arises. And it looks like now is the time that the propping up would be much needed. And government cannot always come in when the cedi falls, come and prop it up. It will be work that I don't think they should spend their reserves doing. Until it gets to the point where you see that it's strained beyond normal levels, that is when I think it will be very good for an aggressive kind of propping up with the cedi. And this is the time we should see that happening. Otherwise, if it strays too much, then you have the speculators too coming in, which will worsen the problem for us, because then they'll start hoarding the dollars. Yeah.
You know, a lot of cocoa farmers gathered today hoping to hear an announcement of an increase in cocoa prices by COCOBOD. It didn't happen. They gave reasons why they had to maintain the price. Does it tally with what you've been observing on the world market? Because the CEO of COCOBOD cited the activity on the world market being one of the reasons why.
Yes, unfortunately this year cocoa hasn't seen very good prices because of changes in the rainfall pattern, and then demand on the international market too is not that significant. So we are seeing a situation where the farmers are not getting a lot of production coming through, and demand too is not that high. Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire wanted to harmonize their farm gate prices, but I think that discussion didn't go through. So we are likely to see cocoa prices still falling. And if COCOBOD had increased, it would have been a pressure on government because they set the price for the farmers. And if the international price is falling, you can't increase the prices for the farmers. Yeah.
That would have resulted in a loss. Yeah. What prevented the Cote d'Ivoire-Ghana harmonization of prices from happening? I mean, that is, if you follow the discussions in any way.
You know, when you harmonize, then it removes that kind of middleman trading. You know, when the prices are high in Cote d'Ivoire, which is happens most of the time, then you see smugglers taking cocoa to Cote d'Ivoire.
From Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire.
And some of them are still active in the cocoa market, so it will be difficult to get it. And there's also sovereignty issues. If your cocoa price is higher than mine, you get more foreign exchange, and there wouldn't be an incentive to lower the price of, let's say, the Ghanaian cocoa to get to the Cote d'Ivoire level. Otherwise, it would also lose revenue. But it's a discussion that I think would go on if the prices fall too much on the international market.
Can you give me a general picture of how the stock market looks like as we round up very finally?
Okay, the stock market, we are seeing petroleum stocks picking up because crude prices are going up. Unfortunately for us, we have crude hitting above $80 currently, and it's actually having a significant effect on the market. And MTN too has started trading very actively, and that is what is pushing the stock market up currently.
Good stuff. Winslow, as always, great to have you and join us on Business Focus. Winslow Sakifio is the Director of Capital Markets at First Bank. And thank you very much for staying with us here on Business Focus. There's a lot more stories on 3news.com. Stay with us as we get into News 360. My name is Alfred Akansi. On behalf of the rest of the team, have a good evening.